Hello, welcome back to your weekly astrological transits, your astrology weather. And this week, for the 7th of July through the next week-ish, kind of hard to stop. We have so many things happening. This is a very, very dynamic month. We are coming into a really, really interesting pattern, probably. Well, we talked about this before, that probably the second most important time of the year. We had this major conjunction of Saturn and Neptune, the one that was it went in the very at 0 degrees Aries, and the last time we tracked that actual conjunction at that degree was over 6,000 years ago. I mean, we think about what mankind was doing on Earth at that time. It's pretty impressive to see or to understand that we're on the dawn of a brink of something entirely new, and I think we all definitely feel it. But this week we've got several things. I'm just going to recap kind of the overview of this time and then into the month, and then I'll get into specifics. Like I just have Neptune over here highlighted because it's retrograde today, but I will get into all of that in just a moment. So just to back up a little bit and to give us a little perspective of what we have going on. Well, we are still in the middle of Cancer season. The sun is in Cancer, and this brings the collective tone to be more protective, more emotional, more memory based. These are all Cancerian themes, home oriented. People are more sensitive or more reactive to belonging and safety, more aware of what feels nurturing versus what's draining them. Then we also have Mercury retro, that messenger planet in Cancer also. So this is a review and a revisit transit for, all things from the past. Oh gosh, it's just getting started. So, we're reviewing old conversations, past narratives, family themes, the past, emotional processing. How did I process that? Can I do better? Um, these things in the collective, it can bring back unfinished business, old stories, old feelings, old hurts, the need to rethink how we communicate care with people and loyalty and truth. These are some big issues, big topics that will kind of be bubbling up to the surface through this whole 3 week Mercury retrograde time. But it still, remember, when it goes direct, it's got to go back through Cancer. So we're going to have this little bit of emotional restructuring for a little bit. Anyway, um, the sun will conjunct Mercury retrograde in Cancer, where the sun goes, it kind of dies into the sun. It's like it's burned up by the sun. It's conjuncting the sun. So it will, it's close to Earth now. So on the retrograde hit, it's right there. So we're feeling it, it's closer to Earth. So sun and Mercury in Cancer retrograde, I mean, Mercury retrograde in Cancer. So it's like the mind and the emotions are really tightly braided together, I'd say. This can make the public mood maybe more reflective, more subjective, more nostalgic, more internally focused. So it's, good for insight, but not always for clean objectivity about things. Then we'll also have a Mercury retrograde squaring Saturn in Aries. Right now it's like 23 degrees, but it'll start moving fast, and then the sun is going, forward, so they will meet up. And um, I'm sorry, I mean sun, I meant Saturn. Saturn is at that like 14 degrees, and it's slowing down all month. It's going to be at 14 degrees, and it will go retrograde. We'll talk about that soon too. But anyway. Mercury retro squares Saturn and Aries. So we have the Cancer squaring the Aries in, stuff, planets. So this adds, I'd say some seriousness, maybe a little friction, mental pressure. Messaging can feel blocked, delayed, when you back and forth with people, maybe heavy or a little reality tested. So collectively, maybe people need to maybe be more precise, more accountable, more disciplined about what you say and commit to, because we have, Mercury redoing, and it's the square, which is always about structuring and challenge, but doing it right. And then it's in a square to Saturn, which is always about doing it right, doing the extra mile, being responsible. And then in Aries, it wants to get to it. It's like, come on, accountability, disciplined about what you say and commit to. We'll come back to what you commit to, because that's coming up with Venus. Okay, Venus is going to be, it's a loud week for Venus. We have lots of Venus aspects this week. And remember, Venus is love and money. This is about things and people you love and about money, values, what you value. So all of that. And it's going to be a heavy week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, kind of for all of that. It's giving us a chance to review our values. All right, so we'll get more into it. But Venus is at the last end of Leo right now. You can see it's at 27 degrees. So Venus is going to be moving from Venus from Leo into Virgo. So the mood is going to really shift from like bold expression, glamour, romance, visibility, drama, being on stage, kind of that's that Leo energy, into discernment, refinement, usefulness, practical care. That's all the Virgo stuff. In simple terms, it would be like it's going to go from let me shine to let me make this better. Then Venus is going to square Mars. So the lovers square, um, so this is going to definitely add some heat to relationships. Art, desire, politics, social dynamics, that's all going to be a little bit spicy. So attraction and irritation can sit right next to each other. Remember that. Collectively, it can also show up as maybe creative sparks or strong chemistry, competitive energy, or like small conflicts flaring up quickly. Um, Now, Venus is also square Uranus. So this is restless, it's electric, it's disruptive. It's disruptive in love and money issues. Anything aesthetic and value, things can be a bit disruptive. So hold your breath on this. And we're still in the Mercury retrograde. So things may need to be fixed more on different levels or beautified or restructured and organized. Maybe we have, accumulating too much clutter and stuff and it has to be gone through. So anyway, it may be, it's like, okay, let's all of a sudden out with all of this, or let's change it real quick. Let's change it up. So people want maybe more freshness and authenticity, not stale roles. So maybe expect some sudden pivots in taste, alliances, or the social mood. And we know that we've got Mars and Gemini. I'm just going to go over some of this. So that's definitely the mind speeds up, conversations multiply, information moves really fast, and energy, can become scattered, all of a sudden squirrel, and your attention is somewhere else. So wily, witty, agile, sometimes argumentative, great for brainstorming and broadcasting, and less great for calm pacing. It's more, the energy is definitely more sporadic. And then Mars moving toward Uranus in Gemini, having that conjunction. Uh, it just passed. I'm just kind of rehashing some of this for you here. So we can see that dynamic Martian disruption. Maybe a good way to say that. Martian disruption. Anyway, um, it's more just to reassess that it's like fast thinking, it's abrupt, it's nervous system change, it's surprise reactions, it's breakthrough energy. It can be brilliant, but it can also be jumpy, it's because it's so charged. So it can also be agitation, innovation, sudden turns in messages or events also. Then we have the big planet Jupiter that just recently moved into Leo. So another mood change. The larger mood now wants confidence, drama, heart performance, leadership, a creative courage. Jupiter in Leo is amplifying visibility, personality, and the desire to make a bigger statement. And this is interesting because Venus was just there. Now it's moving out, and then Jupiter's going to be there, but Jupiter's going to be there for a year. So Venus just kind of warmed the seat, warmed it up a little bit for Jupiter. So we're not quite done with the Leo energy just yet, and we still have the Sun to move in there, and Mercury, and Mars. But this is just kind of like a prelude of what's to come. Then we have this big Barbeau basket we've been talking about, where we have these outer planets making these 60-degree angles apart. So we'll have four planets holding a position all 60 degrees apart, but that also makes several of them 120 degrees apart, a trine, and then an opposition, which I'll draw in a minute. But the Jupiter is getting closer and closer to that 4 degrees. And this is big. We've been talking about this. This is the out. I mean, this is a kind of a rare thing, and the way it's named was after, I believe his name Andre Barbeau. You can look that up. Basically, he predicted the pandemic, the whole thing from 2019 and 2020, the lockdown, all that stuff. And he recently, I mean, he predicted stuff like in 2011, I think. It's pretty amazing. But he recently passed in like 2019, so we really didn't get to see some of his predictions come true. But he's really talking about like the certain planets, they when they come together, they affect the collective, and he nailed stuff. And it's just very fascinating. But anyway, um, as Jupiter clicks into place, you can see that still right here at 1 degree, right here. But this is going to be one end of it, and then you can see it's cross here from Pluto, the other end, and it'll be in a few weeks, it'll be at that 4 degrees. So that will click into place. But then we have over here Neptune at the 4 degrees, and then Uranus here at the 4 degrees. So we can see this is forming right now. We have this basket pattern, and we drew it out, and you can see that. Um, but anyway, that will click into place, but you can see how close it is, and it's a big planet, so we can almost kind of state that it's sort of there. It's like it's getting tighter and tighter. Let me just put it that way. It's just grinding tighter and tighter, to clicking in place. So Jupiter opposed Pluto. This is a big one. It's like Jupiter's big and Pluto is depth. Okay. So it magnifies power struggles, ideological battles, maybe questions of influence, and like the tension between expansion and control. And this is definitely what we're seeing on a lot of stuff, on a lot of, AI has just come in really quick, like a thief in the night. And then now we're getting, oh, data centers. What? Oh, it's taken all of our water. What? This is the stuff that's coming in. This is the crap that's hitting the fan. So collectively it can look like large scale narratives, and then we'll get some strong personalities and intense contests over who gets to define reality. This is getting big. This is going to continue to get bigger. So Jupiter's also involved in a few things here. It's in the opposition to Pluto, and then it's in a sextile. Let me just draw it. And get rid of the red. Maybe. All right, yeah, let's do a nice blue color. And we'll do the line. Okay, so we have, let me do it here. So we have, here's the opposition. And then we have Jupiter. Which one do I want to cover first? Let's do the sextile. All right, so, and then it's going to go to sextile over to Uranus. And then it's also going to make a trine over here to Neptune. So I'll draw the rest of the basket in a minute, but let's just think about that. So we have Jupiter with that nice, well, we'd already talked about the opposition. That's intense. But then the nice trine, or I should say the sextile, let's talk about that one, the shorter distance to Uranus. It's it's innovative. It's like it supports breakthroughs, experimentation, and going in bold new directions. It gives the collective a willingness to try something fresh and to gamble on change. That's not always all good, okay? But that's what's coming up. But there's a lot of things that always will put this in place. Um, so Jupiter also trine Neptune. This is hopeful, imaginative. You're bringing that bigness of Jupiter to that spirituality of Neptune. It could be creative, it can expand, it can inspire. It's just a very, very interesting spiritual oriented type of an aspect there. All right. What else with that do I want? Well, that's not letting me do that. Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to erase a second. All right, let me just go ahead and do this one here. So we're going to bring this here and then bring this here, just so you can see that. And then you will have this other trine here going this way, which we'll talk about soon, but let me just do a different color so you can see that these are trines. It's a bit different color here. All right, so you see how unique this pattern is. I mean, this is just very, very interesting. And then I think we also mentioned that um, when other planets come around, especially like when the moon and then, the faster moving planets move to some of these other spots, they will make um, other patterns here. And I think we drew that out here, coming into Scorpio or into Libra, if we have something coming like that. Um, so anyway, these are making some other interesting patterns here in the Scorpio. Anyway, okay, so I'm getting a little off topic here. So much. It's hard to just stay on just that. But I wanted you to see that pattern before we really move on from it. Okay, so now we have Jupiter trining Neptune and why? Okay. Okay, now did we get the Jupiter sextile Uranus and then the Jupiter trine Neptune, and then we have our off to the side a little bit, we've got a Saturn in Aries, and it's like, and it's in there still with Neptune in Aries, but Saturn in Aries is in the same larger corridor as Neptune there, but it's a part of a deeper era defining background. So it might attempt to give us a little bit of a new vision. So Saturn in Aries is pushing for courage, it's new courage and responsibility. That's a good way to put it. Aries, courage, Saturn, responsibility, wants to do it right. Neptune in Aries dissolves old identities and inspires a new myth of selfhood, action. So together, it's really learning how to turn inspiration into structure. Yeah, or putting structure to your inspiration. Then we also have Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. So it's a longer transformations, because now we're having all the planets, especially the outer planets, are all going to start to turn retrograde. Pluto, though, is longer transformations of the systems, technology, networks, power distribution. And that's power, both power, electricity power, and it's also power, um, uh, manipulative power. So power distribution and collective identities. So in the background, it's like, what kind of future are we really building and who controls it? Are we going to have more say in the collective, less from the top down? That'd be nice. All righty. So, okay, we went through those. What else do I want to bring you to? All right, so today we have Neptune moving. Well, let's cover that a little bit because that's important. Well, let's see. Yeah, that is good. I got a lot of notes here. I'm just trying to make sure when I start putting too many notes together, there's lots to go over. All right, so um, Neptune. Oh, goodness. Big week. Neptune turning retrograde today. It's like, and then Venus moving into Virgo. So we got a couple of big sign changes ahead. So the tone Neptune retrograde, it's like putting the brakes on, um, maybe pulling the dream inward a little bit more. It can thin out the glamour, the fantasy, the projection, the spiritual idealization, maybe that people, we're projecting onto things, and we begin to sense what's really underneath that spell. Are we under the spell of something? Do we really want that? Is it fantasy? Is it an illusion? What is it? That doesn't always feel dramatic on day one. This is a 5 month, the outer planets are retrograde a long time. So Neptune is going to be retro for 5 months. So this might be a subtle shift. The fog starts to change. The mood becomes more reflective. You're looking inside. The psyche starts to revisit what it believes, what it hoped for, what it escaped through. If I couldn't do this, here's how I'm escaping, or romanticized. So we're all going to be having to wash that spiritual realization a little bit. And then Neptune being in Aries, it's a little bit harsher. It's this gets personal and existential. It's like, what do I believe? Or it's really moving from what do I believe? Um, but it's more than that. It's more than what do I believe? It's who am I when the old dream dissolves? When the old dream of myself dissolves? Ooh, who am I when the old dream of myself dissolves? And doesn't that happen all the time? I mean, it's kind of like we're dying to be born anew each day. But this, I think, is going to be a bigger impetus with people. And it can be, we could start seeing where we're acting from fantasy, where, we have inflated inspirations, maybe gaining a little bit more clarity and seeing through that. Then we have our Venus quincunx Neptune and Venus quincunx Pluto. All right, remember, just going to go over that one more time because that actually iron it out a little bit more. I think I mentioned it and go into it too deep. So Venus, it's already making some squares. All right, we already talked about those, but then it's the quincunx are the 150 degrees. So Venus will make a quincunx over here to Neptune and then over to Pluto. So we can see it's like in that it will be as it moves on. We can see it's close. Um, I'll step through the days in a minute, but it's just important to get the whole context because this is a very complicated week. It's like a lot to unpack these last few weeks, and then all month is going to be kind of interesting. Anyway, Venus quincunx Neptune, then Venus quincunx Pluto. Quincunx are that weird 150 degrees that the two bodies in motion don't have anything in common. So it's like discomfort, it's adjustment, it's awkward recalibration, or a sense that two energies don't naturally speak the same language. And then Venus with Neptune, it's going to be like an adjustment between discernment and idealization. Venus and Virgo wants clarity, proof, usefulness, clean lines. Chip, chip, chip. Neptune and Aries can act from a dream, longing, instinct, inspired haze. So it can show up as confusion in relationships, maybe disappointment after projection. You're projecting it a certain way and it doesn't end up that way. Mixed signals around money or desire, and a subtle emotional offness where people realize something just isn't matching the fantasy. But it can also be beautiful for art, compassion, and returning to the heart if people are willing to let go of their idea of perfection or illusion. Then it quincunxes over to Pluto, so it deepens the tone. So not only do we have a little dissatisfaction, but we also have the area where values, attachments, control, power, emotional undercurrents become harder to ignore. So Venus in Virgo wants order and coherence. Pluto in Aquarius exposes what is deeper, stranger, more compulsive. And it's a transformation that's um, it's more transformative than our neat little plans can say. So really, it's like bringing reality, maybe relax. Sorry, how would I say? Um, Intensity, money themes, power issues. Maybe the need to adjust to a truth that changes the emotional equation. It's less easy romance and more something hidden is reshaping the field. Big, big stuff, big stuff. Then we come up to next week, then we come up to the new moon. Let's just move through. Okay, so we have all of that going on, and we can see here uh Thursday, there's where Venus, moves, it changes signs, and then it comes up to the node, but we'll get there. So Venus there, and then we have the new moon. So we got Saturday. We'll talk about Venus and the node in a minute. Um, Everything's stretching out, and then there's right interesting here. So interesting here now, coming up into Monday and Tuesday is the new moon on the 14th. but look at right between. This is going to be an interesting day, Monday, is Mercury is right between the sun and moon in Cancer. So here we may have some issues with communicating. I mean, we have Mercury communications, Cancer about what you need, what your needs are, what your feelings are, what your home is all about, and then we have it right between the sun and the moon. So right between like emotions and outward. It's like you might be stuck with a bit of a dilemma of me and thee, my way or your way, our way, the new way, a new way of balancing things, a new way of thinking about things. This is kind of like, maybe reshaping or reformulating as we come up to the new moon. New moons are always about new beginnings. So new moon in Leo it could be a trigger for things, trigger for events. New moons are kind of like a seed point. So coming into Leo, it's about back to the visibility, leadership, heart, self-expression, creativity, identity, courage. Um, and then, we've got this, Jupiter and Leo is amplifying that expression. And then it's opposing over there Pluto and Aquarius. So it's intensifying the collectiveness. And then the Neptune retrograde is changing the psychic atmosphere. And then Venus is shifting to more discerning. And I can't be satisfied. What have you done for me lately? Kind of a thing. So the new moon can act like a spotlight turning on things. Things that were brewing internally may suddenly want form. The public figures may make bold moves, creative launches, declarations, ego clashes, all that might be coming up. Leadership themes. This is who I am now. Um, the Leo moon can, not create the story itself, but it can trigger the story that's building. Um, So Venus shifting from Leo into Virgo moves us from expressing into discernment. The Neptune retrograde changes to psychic weather and asks, what's real beneath this dream? The Venus makes the awkward adjustments um, to Neptune and Pluto, suggesting relationships, values, emotional recalibration. And then the new moon might bring a bigger collective theme into your mind, is bring it all out. So, what else do I want to tell you? All right, we talked about that shifting Venus and Virgo. Um, well, that also Venus and Virgo, it tends to bring a cleaner and more selective lens. It can be very helpful, clarifying and grounding. It can also make people a little harder to please. It's a bit like, what have you done for me lately? You'll put that Janet Jackson song on. All right. The higher expression is devotion, care, refinement, craftsmanship, acts of service. The lower expression is nitpicking, overanalyzing, and confusing criticism with discernment. I would underline that, rewind, and listen to that because that's going to come up as a theme. And when that comes up in your relations, you just got to try to take a deep breath. Don't say anything a minute. Take another deep breath and then try to think of the highest thing that you can say. Or if you can't, don't say anything. Um, Remember, Neptune retrograde that tends to change the way illusion works. When it's direct, people can be swept up in a story or a dream or a projection, a hope, a fantasy, or a spiritual longing without really realizing it. And then when it turns retrograde, it's the WTF, some of the haze starts to fall back and you go, what was I thinking? You might notice where you were idealizing, drifting, avoiding, or believing what you needed to believe. So that can, and then with the Aries tone, it can definitely be a bit personal. It can get to bring stuff up in a poignant way. It can go from what am I acting from? Clarity or enchantment? Conviction or projection? Where is this? So the quincunxes at Venus, we have attraction mixed with uncertainty. We have longing mixed with vagueness. We have beauty with confusion, tenderness with projection. It's all over the place. It's definitely an all over the place kind of a week. So it's like not really so much being in about fog, but it's like power, intensity, attachment, control, emotional undercurrents. Something may feel compelling. It's not simple. Desire can become more psychologically loaded. Relationship dynamics, value, choice or like a creative direction may reveal hidden motives. Who has leverage here? Do I or somebody else? What or who am I attached to? What am I trying to keep alive? These are the themes that are coming up. So taken together, these two aspects of Venus, the quincunxes, are describing a week where people are moving from maybe idealizing something to discomfort and then a deeper truth. It's like we're busting through the illusion, and then you're like, oh, that's what I was really needing. That's what I was after. That was nah. What I really need is blah blah. So not always dramatic on the outside, but internally very, very telling. What else do I want to say? Uh, the Leo new moon. It's maybe in the collective, we can also look in the world, Leo personalities, Leo or Leo risings. There's a lot around there. I mean, Donald Trump, I believe Eric Kirk is, I think Tulsi Gabbard is also trying to remember some of the Leo rising people. Anyway, we can have some things showing up also as like a reveal, a bold statement, a heartfelt decision, a rupture in performance, maybe one of those costume malfunctions or something, a demand for authenticity. It's like people seeing through and seeing the fakeness in something. Maybe an event that pulls private tension into a public view. That might be interesting. That might be really, really interesting. All right, anything else this week? Well, again, we're coming into this interesting time, and we see here just by the end of the week, we're Jupiter's at 3 degrees, and it's getting really, really close to that basket. Let me draw it one more time because it is such a cool thing. Oops, don't want the eraser. Can't draw with the eraser, Carrie. All right, so we have the opposition here, and then we have there. I didn't grab that nice one. I will. Dun dun, there's the basket. Oh, we got the good tool. All right, and then I'm going to do these different color here. So here's our trines. And then also remember that when anything comes into, like, let's see, we have 2 signs away into this Virgo spot at 4 degrees. I'm trying to put it here, it's 26. I'm sorry. There it is. Libra. There we go. That's what I want. It's up here. Okay, so Libra spot. Let's see, 28, 29, 30, like right about here would be about the that Virgo spot. Oh, sorry, Libra spot. I'm looking at. So this would be like the 4 degrees Libra, which would be the next spot over here, right? So when Venus goes there, the next sign, when the moon gets over here, which we're going to see, the moon will be over there first, that will make 5 points on that star. Isn't that cool? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nothing here at Sagittarius, where, here 27. So the Sagittarius spot would be about right there, right over here. So you can see if I were to connect, let me get another color, connect these. So this would be that shape all the way through. We would see the 60 degrees, 60 degrees, 60, 60, 60. You can see how unique that pattern is. So look in your chart. This is the missing spot here at 4 degrees over 4 degrees Sagittarius. But again, when planets are when the moon will make it'll trigger that when it hits these spots, it'll be there. And then when it hits a spot, it'll be there. And then it moves around, it'll keep triggering these spots. This is going to be in place for a little while. This is a very, very unique pattern. Shaping the collective. Let's just put it that way. And I think we really it's pointing that we all have a voice, and we all are part of the spirit. We're all a part of this. And I think it's a collective. We're realizing that, but yet we're still seeing our unique identity at the same time. It's kind of that's what I'm looking for. It's like a fractal. It's just a big fractal, and it just keep getting deeper and more fractalized. So anyway, this is a very interesting week. Stay on guard, and thank you for listening and sharing. More to follow. Bye for now.